Hey, what's up? It's your boy Bobby Sapphire, and welcome to the 16th episode of the KTOD radio podcast. I'm here with the three other members of the KTOD. What's up, Justin? Good morning.
Back on the grind. I can't believe it's been 16 episodes. Wow.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
bi-weekly. I don't know what's going on with Maddie, but what's up, Maddie? The sunglasses plus mustache look is wild.
What up, guys? Just been hanging out at the KTOD block party. If you know, you know. More to come on that, but yeah,
Cool.
you know.
I feel like
gotta have
looking
the
at
suns
Maddie,
out.
I want to like fold my pocket aces. Like I'm intimidated.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like that's the vibe.
Can
Me and
you
Steve might hit
can
up
you
a
lay
poker
him down?
room
Are you good enough, dude? Steve, have you ever folded pocket aces? Can't have.
Pre-flop
No,
or
you-
after the flop?
I guess after the flop. You definitely can't do a pre-flop,
Can't
like
fold.
literally.
Wait, have you? Do you know
I've folded
like
pocket plenty of times after the flop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, after, without a doubt. But there was like this poker show where like they'd have like a guest come on against ringers, and a guy literally mucked pocket aces like pre-flop. It was wild. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah,
I
sometimes
do
you get
feel a
let 'em
little
go.
left out though, because I don't know what this block party is he's talking about. So that
Yo,
is-
it's
you know,
my
you-
deck. It's my sweet deck that I've been cooking up that I'm gonna do. That a video will drop soon, but people in the Patreon know about.
Soon, TM.
I was worried you guys were actually having a real block party.
Oh, there's the hangout.
Yeah, we are having somewhat of a hangout. We are going to mention as along as along with the Armor Matt winner. We're going to talk about some Twilight of the Republic spoilers. We have gotten our preview spoiler. I don't know, Maddie hasn't seen it, but we're
refuse.
going to be spoiling that on Thursday. We were originally Friday, but they moved us to Thursday because it's a leader tie-in spoilers. You can bang it here, KTOD YouTube, to get that. There's some events going on in Europe. There's a event in the UK, and then a Swedish event, I think you said, Matt?
Yeah, 76 people.
Yep, and the
think
UK
it's being
event has
streamed.
170. Both are being streamed, although the UK event is currently having some stream issues, so it was off for a little while, but I think it's back. And then we're going to answer some listener questions. Actually, we're going to start with a listener question this week because it kind of generates some of the conversation we're going to have around our new tiers, which like we'll talk briefly about. But Frankie Stein asks, is there any plan to add creators to the KTOD roster when the Discord keeps growing? For example, Wu is an integral part of the KTOD Discord building the Modern Cure list, but is a separate Patreon for his lists. And the answer is, like, we're not adding anything to this. This is like the four of us. It works because we're friends, and that's the thing we do. Obviously, we have people in the team that do things, and like if when Wu started his Patreon, he talked to us about it, kind of like, I've been through this before, gave him some tips, but like he's doing his own thing. Chrono wants to do his own thing, he can do his own thing. Reflex has his own thing. Through our Discord, he's doing coaching, right? Like, we want to facilitate other creators to do their thing, and if they're partnered with us because they're on our team, that's great. But there's not going to be anything that we're adding like to the payroll or anything. I want to be more like Team Liquid, which is like there are people, they have a bunch of different games, right? And you watch someone stream Valorant, they're on Team Liquid, but it's a Valorant stream, or it's a TFT stream, or it's a League stream, or it's an Overwatch stream. That's like the dream for the model.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it cultivates positive energy. It's a great question, but it cultivates positive energy, kind of facilitates things, and then it keeps us, kind of as a core. We're the people who are going to get invited to the block party. Although,
Except for me.
I don't actually. Maybe I take all that back. It's a little. Maybe this is all in flux now. But up until about 6 minutes ago, my world was fine. That's how I understood it. Now I'm going to see pictures on Maddie's Facebook of like great times at the block party, and I'm not going to know what to do at all. But
If
no,
you know,
I think
you
that
know.
If you
there's
know,
a lot of great energy.
You guys
A lot of great
just
energy.
don't check your messages, bro. I don't know what to tell
Definitely
you.
don't. There's
You're
so
an
many.
RSVP, I guess. I think you guys raise a good point though that I want to mention is like we do the same thing not only in like gameplay but like also in content creation. We want everyone to like realize their goals and rise together, right? So like we are here to facilitate, like Mike said, like Justin said, people to achieve what they want. And I think that like that's a great thing.
yeah, and I
that should
think
be the mindset.
it's a little inside baseball, but the like how we work is like we have this public facing YouTube channel, and we have obviously our private Discord, and a lot of, we have 1,110 people in there right now. And what we've done is like we're trying to spend more time making content for our subscribers. We added some new tiers this week. One is a weekly podcast that just talks about tournament prep. It's going to be weekly for Patreon subscribers only. And then we added a playtest area for people who we get a lot of messages like, we want a team. I need a team. I need people to practice with. And they're not getting that from the Discord. Maybe it's too big. They don't feel like that team camaraderie of like having teammates and working with people that you actually know, not faceless names online. So we added an area for people to access that through a Patreon tier. And that doesn't mean we're making new content just for that. We really just wanted to, we heard what our subscribers were saying and we made a new area, but our dedication is mainly to the 1,110 people who subscribe to us. Like, I don't know why we would give that up to cater to 20 people, 30 people. But right now our priority is the four of us making Patreon content and getting better at the game ourselves.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to note, like, we'll have conversations, but we don't have like test groups around Microsoft. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have a boardroom. We try things out. Sometimes it works. If we've caught fire, it's been great. We're really appreciative of all the support. There's definitely like tons of energy in the back end. Like, I'm always waking up and looking at my tags about, Green Sabine questions and what would you play this weekend and all this stuff. And that's going to continue. There's a lot of great energy, but every so often there might be something that, we end up shifting to something else towards the end because we're not, we don't have control groups. We're not looking at studies or data and stuff like that. We're just having fun.
Four dudes trying to get the words out.
Four guys and two guys at a block party. I imagine Mike got the invite. Unless
you guys are all, about
you
the
didn't grow up with the block parties.
Want to have our own block party?
And now Mike says,
wait, why are you trying to usurp the block party?
Yeah, what is that?
The Crestline
dude, we grew up on a cul-de-sac with like crazy block parties.
Oh my god. Two things I want to jump on real quick on this point. One
I didn't go to Home Depot. They would buy tiki torches like 26 years ago to create the best block party in the backyard of all time. And then pool.
That was when we drained our parents' pool and had a tiki party in the pool. Yeah,
I was wild. I was too young, but yeah, I was not there. Two things I want to bring up is like with these new tiers, we still like are jam packing everywhere we can with value. It's not to usurp any value, and to the point, and to even the point of like, we still understand that people are only going to follow us through YouTube. We're not losing any value there. I want to call back to the Blue Han video. Guy took my list and did really well to 1K. Like, that was free content for you guys. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about it later. I got the other channel. Boom, dropping more free stuff. So we're hitting it all over. And that's pretty dope. Yeah. Also, Frankie Steen, you're a Cash Got member. I got some sick new updates to my Kira list that you already paid for, bro. Get in there. Check it out. Come on, son. Come on, son.
All right. Yeah, we briefly touched on these.
Content. Yep. I'm really excited because I've just been locked in the Sabine room for like the last month and a half. But I'm really excited to do some CAD Blue content. And exciting news, might have a lead on a showcase for one. So when I actually bring the deck, it's going to be blinged out.
Blinged out. Justin doing the showcase thing.
I'm going after it.
So the new weekly podcast is a $15 a month tier. We did a free version. You can even, you know what, if you're not a free member of our Patreon, you should sign up for free because we do post content just for free members, including the first episode of our tournament prep podcast. So you can come check it out completely for free. And when we drop it next Thursday, if you want to jump on, great. If not, hope you enjoyed the free content. That's that playtesting tier I mentioned briefly. We have it capped at 56 right now. We think that's a good number to create. We have a couple community leaders in there guiding conversation. We've got the four of us that we could have like a 64 person event if we wanted, if the situation ever arose. But really, it's just it's just to create mini teams within the Discord. So and then Maddie already mentioned it, but you can check out Maddie's insane talking head videos that he's been doing over on KTOD Maddie's YouTube. Those are some crazy thumbnails that Symbiote did for him.
Those are sick, yeah.
Yeah, me and Symbiote have a sick relationship right now, and we've really stepped up the game. Don't get me wrong, I love Maddie as Bill Belichick, but with the next two videos coming out, Maddie Tsunami and the practice video.
I love that you pose for these. These are great.
Oh yeah, Tracy takes pictures of me. I actually have another one that I'm gonna pose for today. that's dropping. It's already recorded. I just didn't have the thumbnail yet to show, but like every week you're going to get these every week on Tuesday, and I'm filmed into September, so just stay tuned.
Cool. And now for the swag bag giveaway. We're recording this the day before, so we're just going to say congratulations to... All right, it's giveaway time. We've got unlimited tote bag. We've got armor mat. We've got sleeves. So many sleeves. Sleeves. Soft crate. All right, as you can see, there are 1,609 entries on Wheel of Names. We've got 1,609. We're starting with Crux Labs. Shout out to Woo. He's finally subbed to us on the free tier. Thanks for your support, Woo. I know you want this mat really bad. 1,609. Andy Dahl. Scroll all the way down. Andy Dahl. Rickick, my boy. All right, let's hit it. This is all of our free subs, all of our paid subs. Let's go. I should have talked during the spin. And it is Ben Doyle. Let's go. Woo! Hey, you won. Yeah.
Dude. In all seriousness, no, this is a sick reward. I love the Game Genic sleeves, and I actually have been using the boxes that we have. As much as I like the big pods, sometimes they're a bit cumbersome, especially if you're trying to like get a bunch of stuff together to go meet up friends and play test. So like that,
really clean.
that stuff is insane. And then the armor mat is just unreal.
Yep. And this is another benefit of having been a free member, right? Like free members, paid members, they were all in a raffle for this. And yeah, as long as you were signed up on the Patreon, you had a chance. So congratulations. And hopefully we get more of this kind of stuff.
No purchase was required.
Right. So next up, talking about the competitive events this weekend. I didn't have a slide for the Swedish one. I only found out about 5 minutes before we recorded, but there's a Manchester event going on. 170 people. Top 16. I think it was top 16.
170?
170. Top 16. And it's only a one-day event. They're not doing a second day. Top 8 get the Emphas Nest mat, or maybe top 16. I don't remember. I have it in a DM if you guys want to talk.
That is a massive tournament. Is that the...
Yeah.
That's
bigger than the Gen Con events.
Right. I mean,
I think 170 might be.
Yeah, these UK events are really big. So top 8 get the Emphas Nest mat.
I'm cracking the stream right now.
Top 16 get an Aspect Pin badge, which are like, I have some here, but like, you get the Aspect pins. They're like not acrylic. What are they called? Enamel pins of all the aspects. And then they have signed Grogu promos by the designers for the top 4. And that's one cool thing that's cool about this event is that it's using that limitless.gg app that we used for Gen Con, and we already know the spread. There are 30 Sabines in the field out of 170, 21 Boba Fett's, 19 Han Solo 2s, 18 Kiras, 16 Bosks, and this is wild, 10 Vaders, 9 Palps, 8 Han 1, 7 Rey, and then it gets to, 5 Tarkin, 5 Gar, and those. And then Yakko posted right before we went on, so this isn't totally clean, but you can see the full breakdown. 26 of those 30 Sabines are ECL, 16 of the, I think 21 Bobas are yellow. 14
one is
blues,
playing on stream right now.
11 ECL Kiras and 5 30-point green Kiras.
The kitchen table.
Yep,
kitchen table. Although we'll talk about it, but I've seen a list that is not the kitchen table.
Oh no, we're not talking about that.
I know, no, not on the pod. But that's why you got to be a kitchen table boy, because there's some lists out there I would not recommend.
For sure. So so anything surprising? I want to go back to the little bit cleaner with all the leaders. Anything surprising here that you guys want to shout out?
So
definitely the Vaders.
I think the surprising thing is that outside of the Vaders and Emperors, that's not really that surprising. This is now falling in line with our top 4 predictions. And I do think, like, we went to Gen Con and you saw all, like, remember, like, we walked around and it was like, palp. There's just, like, a feeling that, like, the big villain leader does pop up as, like, just an entity at every tournament, where this time it's Vader, and it's Vader, it's also Palp right after him. Of just the energy behind that deck. You want to play bigger, you want to play, like, the Imperial War Machine essentially, and it's like you're choosing one of these larger villain leaders without so much of like the nuance of like Akira or something like that. So that sort of feels like it's just going to be a presence. But then it's it's one of those decks that does get oftentimes gets hated up by Sabine. But the top four, if I had to do a pie chart predicting the top four,
Yeah, so
like,
this is interesting because we are gonna I don't know if you guys can, but me and Maddie at least will come on and record a quick like maybe 5 to 10 minute to splice into the pod about the results because we'll have them for tomorrow before the pod goes live.
Right.
So
right.
what are your predictions for the top 8 based on this, or top 4? Like, what prediction do you want to make? Anything is fair game. I'll give you a second to think. There's something.
Here, let me go. I think it's gonna be like 2 or 3 Sabines, two yellow Bobas, like 1 Palp, and 1 or 2 Kiras. How many did that make? 2,
yeah, close enough.
4.
I think what's interesting to me is like when I talk about what weekend is it, like this was a Sabine heavily played weekend. So like looking at this, did we want to play Boba Fett into this 30 Sabines, or did we want to play Kira to beat the Boba Fetts? Those numbers are pretty close in terms of like what's getting played. To me, this is like, all right, a couple Sabines convert, maybe 1 or 2 Boba Fett convert, maybe 1 or 2 Kira convert, and then there's like 1 or 2 wild cards, and then like
I can see a Han.
Yep, for sure, it could be like 1 or 2 Han as well. Like we could just get 2 of each, right? Do you like in that top 8? Like I'd want to be Boba Fett because I would feel good against the Sabines and I would feel good against the Hans and hope to dodge the Kiras. So like, is this a weekend where it's going to be Boba Fett Kira in the final and Kira takes it home because there's a good Kira player in the cut, or they might not even have a cut. It might just all be one day Swiss because I know that there's no day 2. Either way, this is like as Justin said, this is like the classic meta prediction. Like this is it. It's the big 4 and then a bunch of other stuff.
Yes, one thing I would say is that it's probably the amount of Kira that should be played, but it's not necessarily anticipated amount because people haven't always necessarily gravitated to that sort of color spike and leader. So like I guess what I'll be interested to look at is how many of those Kiras actually do top 8, because I could see a world if they're piloted by good players where it's like 4 of the top 8 is Kira, because if you're comfortable with your Sabine matchup as Kira, in which you can get to, and then you're beating up on Boba, and you've got some real nuance towards your villain mirrors with like putting a shield on to
Avenger
and stuff like that, and Snoke, you're actually looking really good against kind of everything. So it'll be interesting to see if that, and we saw Wood Woo at Gen Con kind of getting into that confidence level with his deck. It'd be interesting to see if others are able to adapt to it, because it is a really hard deck to play.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to see like how many people were thinking Kira and then like, oh, maybe the read is like too much Kira. I want to play Sabine instead because I want to beat the Kiras, and then that's why the Sabine number is so high. But like it's interesting to see like how to navigate that space. Yeah. Steve, only 2 of these rays are blue. Any thoughts on that?
Once you unmute yourself.
Oh, Steve's still muted. Is that why he hasn't been talking this whole time?
I don't know.
No, I think he's just chilling.
Sorry, I had to get the dog situated. Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that there's not more blue rays. I mean, I told everybody pre-Gen Con it's a good deck, but nobody took me seriously. I do think if someone was playing it that was actually better than me or knew what they were doing, would have had a little bit more success. Yeah, I mean, if I look at that top 4, I'd want to be playing Blu-ray. I think it's got a really good matchup for both Kira, Sabine, and the new Han. Boba Fett can be tough at times, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. I think Kira, to go back to what Justin said, I played one game the other day with Kira, and throughout the course of the game, I was counting like double digits on the number of misplays I had, and like it's a hard deck to play. And there could be 18 people playing it, but if no one's up to that level of like you guys or Woo or somebody like that, they're not going to get there. Because I mean, I'll tell you this: if you gave me Kira into a fresh tournament tomorrow, even if I had good matchups, I probably wouldn't get there because it's just so nuanced and difficult to play.
Yeah.
Kira can be tough. If you get like all Bobas, you can cruise. You know what I mean? Like, so I will be curious to see like where the kind of like cream rises and who hits into who, and there's gonna be a lot of cool takeaways from this.
Yeah, when last I checked, it was only through a couple of rounds, but the Kylos were doing well early, so I'm interested to see if any of the Kylos hang on.
There's a cool green one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and all all the lists are public, so we'll have plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Bobby Sapphire, and we are recapping the Manchester, UK 170-person event. If you're seeing this in the pod, we're splicing this in. We already did an intro. If you're seeing this on YouTube standalone, check out our podcast for even more content on this video. So this had 170 people, and the top 8 was pretty spicy. Do you have the top 8 right in front of you? Like how many? I have
the top 8. It is, although real quick, is 170 the most people in a tournament? That is a lot.
I don't know. The other UK event also had a lot.
Oh, true.
But I'm not sure. If it's not, it's close.
Yeah. 3 Boba Fett, 2 Palp, 1 Han Solo worth the risk, 1 Rey more than a scavenger, a yellow Rey, very interesting, and 1 Sabine.
Yep, so I think the Bobas were 1 green, 2 yellow.
Okay, yep, 1 green, 2 yellow.
And we're going to cover the top 8 lists here and talk about their runs. So this Sabine list has no Poe. It has General Dodonna, which is generally pretty good in the mirror, but Poe's also good. He faced 4 Sabines and beat all 4.
He was the Mirror Slayer with no Poe.
Lost to Rey. Have to imagine that's the yellow Rey that was that's also in the top 8. And lost to a Boba Fett.
Yeah, so what's interesting about like it's funny, like me and Justin went through like these conversations. I mean, I'm not the Sabine boy, but just like, you know, talking about Poe, and like there is a world where like you really only want to be ECLing wreckers. So like if you did move away from Poe, that frees up some slots. And it's interesting that losing that huge value card is still good in the mirror, probably for some of those lines those guys identified. But like, you know, you can steal things with the heroic resolve damage, and you don't lose your biggest power play, right? So that's
it's
interesting.
Wild that Sabines are so heavy on the Darksaber, and maybe people weren't. Like the thing is, deck lists were open, so if you're playing this Sabine and you see that your opponent isn't playing Poe, like they really don't have any way to get rid of the Darksaber. So like it seems it would be an auto slam.
Yeah, you just don't have
maybe
to worry.
maybe even on like, you know, whatever you already have out on 3. So yeah, it's just a little wild that a Polis Sabine with no way to get rid of Darksaber stomped 4 of them. When
maybe because you have Dodonna, you have a way to keep her hostage. You know, like your pumped up guy is gonna. Although you could probably do that with Wing Leader anyway. But I bet there's like a way that you can maneuver to be a little more sleek. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a criticism. It's just surprising. So
I'm just trying to find the line off the top of my head.
Yeah, same. But it's
cool.
got heroic resolve, which we were talking about in the Discord this week, just like how it's kind of gone away.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. It's interesting. I mean, I think Dodonna's still a good value play.
Oh, for sure. Justin's been on Dodonna a little bit, and like as something that can help beat Boba Yellow as well. The other thing interesting to note is that there were 30 Sabines. It was the most played list, and only 1 converted, and it snuck in 8th on tiebreakers because there was 162 that got bounced.
That is really. I mean, I think when we identified it, like this would be the week that like you would be loving playing Boba.
Yeah, I mean there were so many.
I actually would have liked to be on Kira 30, even though it didn't sneak into the top 8. And the 9th was an ECL. One of our boys from the Discord, Mike Henson, came in 30th at his first big tournament, going X and 3 on a 30-point Kira, I think 1 card off for me. So I wanted to shout him out because he did wreck some Sabines today, and like that was like I think he went 3-0 or something against it. So
yeah, nice.
He had a good angle there.
Yeah, I mean with 50 of the 170 being Sabine or Boba, like it would make sense that Kira's did well, but Kira is a hard deck to pilot, and with 0 converting, right? 0 converted. That's
ninth is the
that's
highest
wild.
one.
With that meta, we would have expected some. So I'm sure people will be heavily down on Kira, which only puts it in a prime position. I'll be interested to see what we think about will be good for next weekend. In 7th place is a Palp Blue here, 30-point Palp Blue. And it seems pretty standard, nothing out like crazy that I can see. But it does have main deck Traitoresses and main deck Entrenched, which aren't the most commonly played cards.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, I'm not the biggest Traitorous guy, so I'm just trying to see where it's good. Like,
It seems like a UK thing based on the list. This won't be the first Traitorous that we the only Traitorous we talk about today.
I mean, there are a lot of good 3-drops in Boba Yellow still. If you're worried about Lurking Tai, you kind of have an avenue there. But I think that the real thing is, like, we identified Palp to be something that could be good as the meta goes later. Would not have expected it here with so much Sabine, but let's see, how many did he beat? No, not okay. So here he just farmed pretty much the matchups that you want to, which can completely happen. So, like, even though that this might not have been which it was the Palp week, 2 of them got in, but like, even though this isn't like the ideal Palp meta, you can still get the matchups you want in sale. So sometimes you just decide, like, okay, I'm going to toss this match and hopefully I only play it once. And he did.
That's what happened. We talk about that all the time. Like, if you can be the Palp that only has to face Sabine 1 or 0 times, you're going to be great. And then, like, playing 2 Boba and playing 2 Kira, this is like one of the few decks that's like actually pretty good into Kira in various builds. So and then split games with Han and beat a Grand Inquisitor. I mean, that's the dream run for Palp, especially Blue Palp. I love the Scanning Officer. I mean, I love Palp. I have the most games played as Palp. Like, I play so much Palp, but it's not as successful for me. Yeah, I can't wait to use that. All right, and
the other thing I wanted to say is, like, even when you allocate that risk and get paid off, like, I know we'll probably get into predictions, but I think Palp could easily win win this tournament with the top 8, how it's going to align.
Only one Sabine and 3 Bobas to pick off. So and a green Palp. So this one I had to do not as an image because the image generator is broken for the Restore to Arc. But this is a yellow 30-point Ray that was on stream. So if you can check out the stream, we'll have the stream linked in the description of this video. And running the choppers out there. Chopper, Cartel Turncoat, pretty wild low to the ground Ray that I guess is trying to find value in the Mandalorian. But it's also got 3 jetpacks. It's got main deck confiscates. It is a wild list.
It is a brew. I mean, I definitely want to go back and watch the matchups. This was a tournament, Saturday, I'm watching the kid chasing him around. I was refreshing the Limitless, which was fun, but I want to go back and watch the matchups because I am curious how this player navigated 3 Sabines in the last 4 rounds with the fact that, Chopper, like, you can get early ECL'd and Chopper loses kind of some of that value. And so, like, especially with like 2 Ezra and 2 Kanan. So again, not criticisms, just trying to find where it works. I love a deck that runs C3PO and has a lot of ways to proc it. That was like my big thing early in the set, and that he's leaning into that. So probably some good card advantage generated between C3PO R2.
And he might be doing things like underdropping and like making sure he gets those low cost guys and starts buffing them up and then slams the Mandalorian so that they're double shielded. I would also say that like confiscate against all the Sabines probably went a long way. You just get that, you hold it, you wait for them to tap out for the Darksaber. It's a huge blowout. Like, that could be just enough damage saving on what they spend for it to be enough to win those matchups.
And you can undercost, right? So you can play, even if you want to play like a jetpack, like, you can still, with your actions, like a lot of times decks have to worry about like just passing and getting no value. He can still take really cheap actions and save the confiscate, where other decks can't do that, right? Like, so say if I'm Kira and I want to hold the takedown, he could just play a 4-drop and pass or something. He can kind of blow me out a little more than you can against the Ray, because the Ray can pump and undercost.
Right, but here we can play a 1-drop, buff it, attack with something. Play another card, confiscate.
It's funny that Steve mentioned Yellow Ray like in the pod, and then but this is cool because I've tried Yellow Ray. I have not made it work, but I'm gonna sleeve this
same.
up and
I'm
bring
excited
it
to try it. And Village Protector's in the sideboard, so I know I watched him beat a Sabine, and he on stream, and he brought those in, and essentially just
I'm telling you, man,
bounced off and attacked, and he beat a couple of Bobas too, which is interesting.
The Village people are value town. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, here's our sub, Sam Short, Obsidian.
Shout out to Sam Short.
Chair Obscuro, who shouted us out on stream, which was great. He did the submarine move. He lost round 1 to Palp, and then he won 7 in a row. He played 3 Palps today. That's a guy that is after my own heart. I feel like I always play Palp. He played a Gar, he played a Bo, he played a Boba, and he played a Kira.
I mean, going 2-1 against Palp shows that he can game. I think that's a nuanced matchup, and one that if you take the right strategic approach and I don't want to tip the cap and give that away just in case. But like he found the way to beat that deck, and he maneuvered it, which is really cool.
Yeah, and this looks like, I don't know all the nuances of all the Blue Hans. I mainly just play the one that you gave me, but I think this looks pretty close to what Frank played at Gen Con because of the 2 Pillage, the 2 Mace.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had entrenched in that, but possibly. Either way, like there's a lot of modifications you can make.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, even though my list looks different, what's cool about this color palette, and I say it in the video I did, and like we always talk about it in the actual thread, which is what he shouted out that collaborative process in the threads. That's why they're so good. Is like we all have our own takes, but like we come together and people kind of pull what they want, and that's exactly what he did here.
Yeah, and you make modifications based on what you expect too.
Exactly.
And yeah. This is a great deck. It's one of the most popular. He's the only one that converted with it. So shout out to him. 6-7-1 run, and I'll be rooting for him tomorrow. He's going to be playing against the list we're looking at next, Green Palp. And I'm going to try and get some games against the Green Palp and see if I can help in any way. I know he beat 3 Palps, or he lost to 1 Palp, but beat 2.
Yeah.
But still, any help that we can give, we'd love to give to him.
Oh, yeah.
So here's this Green Palp, pretty spicy with the Cobb Vance. I love all the officials. I've been wanting to mess with Cobb Banth. He hasn't quite made my list yet, but he's got Escort Skiffs. He's got Enterprising Lackeys, which I love. He's got Bounty Hunter Quarry and Traitorous, and then he's got Legal Authority in the sideboard. So he's like very high on those upgrades in this list. He's only got 1 resupply, which like I think of all the things in this list, that's the wildest call that I see. Even though he's got things like Mercenary Gunship. Which I guess is like it's good for Cobb Vanth. You need some like low drops in there, but 3 resupply when you really need to be ramping with Palp seems pretty crazy. Not crazy, but it's wild.
1 seems a little wild, but he's really leaning into like it seems like he's leaning more into like, okay, I'm playing to the board.
Yeah, and trading early, attacking early.
I'm ramping after. Like his resupply is probably like on the 7th resource turn to like get to 8. You know what I mean? Like he's more not that I would necessarily. I think I'd at least play 2 personally, because one of the biggest things is he has him in the sideboard. Okay, that's a split. So he's just indexed actually more towards an aggro meta. That's fine.
Yeah, I still think I would want like it over Traitorous in the aggro meta, but I think all the other stuff is spicy, and like I've never tried Bounty Hunter's Quarry and Palp, but
it's good.
It's cool.
I mean, he can go Bounty Hunter's Quarry into Cobb, and then from there, so like he's straight value town.
Yep, and like you could just run Sentinels out there with phase 2 Emperor's Royal Guard in the Gamorrean Retainer. Like you can really just pump Sentinels out.
And that's like one of the biggest ways that I found to combat like Sabines, even if they have Spec Force Soldier, is like you're just gonna have so many Sentinels that you're gonna always be able to chump and then get a nice barrage off. And just back to Bounty Hunter's Quarry, like I think that card is so underplayed. Like I love seeing it here. I think it's such a smart choice because it's just insane value, even if it's on a non-unique. And like so he's really indexed towards that, which I like.
Yeah, and he beat two Sabines, which is, a testament to this early game that he's put together. It's so early focused, which is something that most Palps don't do. So, yeah, I'll be interested to try a version like this, and really just, it's nice sometimes to get you, like, to look at the lists that do well and be like, okay, these are things that, like, I've been interested in trying but haven't really found time to pull the trigger, but this worked, so let me just try it and see if some of these, even though, like, I'm not a huge fan of, like, some of the 2-ofs and 1-ofs, it's good to try a list like this so that you can see how it's working and if some of these things are actually the value town that they seem.
Yeah. Yeah. Broaden your horizons. Yeah. Love it. It's cool.
All right. So here's one of 2 Boba Yellows that we're going to take a look at. And this one does not have lurking. This is the one that has hot shot. I mean, these are pretty standard lists. This is a smaller bounty hunter package. It only has 1 Zuckuss. It's more leaning on the lackeys and the cantina bouncers through the late game bounty hunter package, but everything else is pretty standard at this point. It's like what's flavor are you gonna do? He's got the Viper probe droids, he's got Boba Fett's army, he's got a little bit of everything, right? And he's got the Gamos in the board, Bazine in the board. Don't want to say this is standard, but like it's yellow's so good, it has all the good cards. I don't know what much to say about it other than like it's got all the good stuff. No wonder it did well.
I like Boba's armor, and I like the at least 1 shoot first. I think people are like forgetting that card exists, and it was so
it's huge for me. I love it.
Yeah, so
and
I like that.
He beat 2 Kiras, which is pretty insane. Like that's a tough matchup, and so for him to go 2-0 against Kira opponents is pretty great.
Yeah, that's not an easy matchup for him.
All right, and here's the other one. And this one, the thing to note about this one is that he faced 3 yellow Boba mirrors and won all 3, and then lost in the round 8 to the green Boba that went 8-0. And I think like what I see when I see his list is the reason why it did so well. In the mirror is like having the full 4 Zuckuss package. Yep. Like that's such a good trump in the mirror. Like.
That was your sideboard strategy.
Yep, that was my sideboard strategy. Shout out Richard Douglas who beat me with it on day 1 of Gen Con. But he's got all the goods here. He's got 1 Cartel Spacer. He's got 3 Hotshot Blaster. He's got the main deck Lurking Ties, which I really like and have been flirting with. The Bodhies are fully in the board. And he's got more Relentless. He's got all the Relentless Pursuits. He's got 2 in the board. He's got my Final Showdown, one of my favorite cards. Yeah, I think this is another solid list. But again, like I don't think that there's a wrong way to do Boba Yellow right now.
Yeah, it's very versatile, and you can just kind of like hedge where you want. He went for the mirror. He hit the mirrors. He crushed.
Yeah, and A also good in those mirrors when you can rebuy things like Cantina Bouncer.
I like that.
All right, the 8-0 list. I'm going to go full Sports Center here and go, young people, do not try this at home. These UK Boba Green players insist on playing 54 cards or whatever. This is a 54-card list, and it has Patrolling V-Wing. And I will let you take a math course and think about why you would want to add something into your deck above the minimum that draws you cards. That doesn't work the way you think it does, but I can't say anything. Dude went 8-0. He's obviously a beast. He played on stream, so you can catch some of his games. But he won 4 Boba Fett matches, so he played the yellow Boba 4 times, and for whatever, I don't know if it's the Boba Fett's armor X3, I don't know if it's the 6-7 drops that really trumps that matchup for him, but when I've been testing yellow Boba into green, like I've been happy on the yellow side, and this dude Joshua Freeman Birch, he's a beast. He won all 4, and I think that's sick. And he also beat Akira, and he beat 2 Han worth the risks. And I think like this is very similar to the Gen Con Boba Green in that it has the 3 Boba Fett's armor. It has the 6-7 drops. It has the main deck reinforcement walkers. I think the spiciest thing is Cobb Vanth, right? Like that's even more spicy than the Patrolling V-Wing, but also gives you great, like the V-Wing gives you an awesome card to pull with Cobb. So I think it's really cool.
It would be hard for me to cut down, because if you get rid of the V-Wing, then you probably don't want the Cobb. But yeah, Joshua reminds me of like a early NASCAR or Formula One driver. He's got some talent, but his car is not so efficient. He hasn't gotten on that team yet. He's running the 54 cards.
But whatever, he's winning.
But he's got skills, baby, and that means a lot at a big tournament. I think this game, if you are the better pilot, you get so many match points, percentage points, and a chance to win that you can really bridge the gap there. I love Boba's armor. I think that card's insane. I've been trying to also kind of see a way to play green Boba, and I think this going late style in the meta is really interesting, that he could farm the yellow Bobas and Han. And we've been hearing that Han's worth the risk. The blue-red deck has a little bit of trouble with green Boba, and I can definitely see why.
Yeah, and he's got a high density of units here. Like the waylays are in the board, like he doesn't have he's not looking for the 3-cost bounce effect to set off Boba units big flip turn. So he's definitely like counting to 8 in a different way, like maybe with him a clunky and a 5-drop, and then either armor or jetpack, or a Cloud Rider or Brazine or V-Wing. So definitely a lot of spicy stuff. Very cool list, very well played, and we'll see if he can take it down tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so it's time to talk about Twilight of the Republic, coming out on Maddie's birthday. Justin, you're muted, by the way. 36, bang. So as we said, we're going to have a spoiler dropping on Thursday. There haven't been a ton of spoilers. Actually, I wanted to show you guys, I don't know if you've seen this, especially Steve, I'm guessing, hasn't seen this, but the art for this set has been crazy.
Yeah, it's so sick. That should be our new King of the Hill art, by the way. We got to change it.
Yeah, we can change it if you want. That's fine.
Look at that. That is so insane.
Yeah, it's good. I like this clone trooper. Yeah, that's Mustafar. Yep. So this is all card art for Twilight of the Republic. I think that R2 is sick. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping like 1 or 2 of these become a matte for sure. I assume that we're getting like an R2 unit, but it could be like an event or something. The Aether Sprite image is good. This Asajj image is sick. The art is just like, it got kind of clowned on really early, but we're seeing a real upgrade to the art, including this image of Plo Koon in the first card of 2 that we're going to talk about today. But it is spoiler season. The FFG is already starting to focus on set 3, even though like I'm still very focused on my events coming up, 1Ks, PQs. So I'm trying not to get too in the weeds, but this is an interesting card to talk about because we do have an ambush 5-drop in yellow, which is like yellow is the 5-drop ambush color. And this is a potential 6/6 ambush because it has coordinate raid 3, gain this keyword when you control 3 or more units. It's 3+3/+0 while attacking. So this can ambush a Force Jedi Republic 6/6 ambusher if you have 2 units out, because it counts itself in the coordinate. What do you guys think about this?
Great and limited. I wouldn't necessarily think it's that great and constructed just because of the opportunity cost of some other cards. You're looking at like, oh, maybe it can be raid 3, which puts it as a 6/6 for 5, which is becoming the new normal for like the power cards like Zuckuss and Poe. But ambush is obviously great with that. It's a little bit similar to like a Zuckuss in that like it's got a conditional 6/6 ambush, although Zuckuss would be 7/7.
Yeah, unless using ECL.
Right, but just I don't know. I think I don't necessarily think it's going to jump into constructed just based upon the other powerful cards. Although the color spike there, they don't that spoke doesn't necessarily have a big beater there.
Yeah, I think another thing too is like how much can we have coordinate running? Like, is there going to be a leader, or are there going to be like cards that are going to lead up to a Plo or any of these other, like Anakin or something like that are going to make it really easy to have coordinate? Like, I think that's a big thing. Like, if it's consistently a 6/6 ambush, like, yeah, maybe you're playing 2, maybe a Force and Jedi get a lot of resources. Like, I always talk about card density, and like blue, yellow hero has the most Force users in pound for pound in like I think the entire game. So there could be something there that Plo slots in nicely because of some Force synergies that come about.
Yeah, and Hero Blue Force doesn't have any good 5-drop. Like, we've seen that in the Blu-ray. Like, we don't even play. Like, Steve plays 1 5-drop, but I play 0. But I do think, like, I don't think this is a build around as much as, like, if there's a good clone deck, like, this card becomes a bomb in it. Because, you could have a 5-cost leader flip, and then you only need one additional thing that does Plo Koon. And, like, what if there's a leader who, like, flips and makes a clone? And you can like play the game to have sentinels out when that happens, and then Plo Koon basically always has raid 3. So like I think like if the deck works, this guy is going to be like an auto include bomb in it, but it really just depends on the deck. We're not building a Plo Koon deck,
Yeah.
But Yellow Force is Yellow Force hero. I mean, it has Ezra, it has Grogu, and there's going to be Force all over the set without a doubt.
And it might just be like you need him to like keep up with those other things, like Justin's saying. Like you might just need to use Plo to counteract, the freaking Poe Dameron. You know what I mean? Like or whatever. So it could just be like, all right, we are parity here, because ambush is so absolutely strong. Like
and him killing all the 5-cost 6, the 5 flip leaders that have 6 health, like. This is exactly, if it does work, a card that I think would become a staple in the meta because of how good it is into all of the things that we already have and that are good.
I'm hoping that there's a reasonable blue-yellow Force deck. I like blue-yellow hero, and it just isn't making its way through. And so that's where my eye is going to be. Hoping and praying.
I think it's got all the proper keywords and stats to be really good, but it'll depend on the deck.
Yeah.
All right.
Limited though, hot. Ooh, whoa. Hey.
Yeah, and speaking of limited bombs, here's a legendary Gore, 12 cost, exploit 3, sentinel, ambush, overwhelm, 7/7. And then the way exploit works, and that's why I have the Hellfire tank up there, because it's our only explanation of the rule. But while playing this card, defeat up to 2 units you control. This card costs 2 less for each unit defeated this way. So Gore can cost 6 if you have 3 units out. Like if you have 3 battle droids out, he costs 6, and he's a 7/7 ambush overwhelm that also is sentinel. And you can utilize this while playing this card text with things like Palp's Return. So you can
that's cool.
You can also play the Palp's Return to exploit these things into play for cheaper.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a cool like Palp's Return with like Force throws and stuff like that.
Yeah, Force throw for 12 and then Palp's Return it. Yeah, pretty insane. Like getting it on both ends is
you're
really
not
cool.
You're not obviously like using the exploit text there. The sentinel text is really good though. The ambush. Yeah, this card's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting one to see with all those keywords. RIP grit, but
yeah.
Come on, guys, you couldn't fit in anything more.
You can still use exploit with all those synergies. Like we don't know what is going to make battle droids. So like, or even just
that's true.
Playing it for you might want to play it for 10 or 8. It just once it's there, and if you have Palp's Return, once it's in the discard pile, like they just have to watch out for it. It's just so huge. Yeah,
I think this card is going to be. Yeah,
right.
It's just anyone can use it. I think it's gonna. I think this card is gonna kind of be like a Mace Windu. It's gonna be a cheap legendary that I think people are gonna underrate, and in the right scenario, it's gonna be like, oh wow, Gore/Mace is actually really good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I think he's gonna have these niche applications, but like Force throwing for 12, or just like cheating him out and getting value off of what you sacrificed. Right, like there can be some synergies there. Like I don't think we're gonna be all making Gore decks, but I think like there are going to be points in time where he's good and he can be in your deck as a one of, and but I think I wouldn't like speculate on him, right? I wouldn't assume
it's just too early, and we just don't know if the token synergies are going to be good. Like the token decks might never be constructed playable.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be
my green Han Rex Gore deck is already looking pretty sweet. Han 1. You can play him on turn 5 with just those 2 cards. And
Rex and
4 because Rex,
that's pretty hot.
Turn 5.
I think the interesting thing to note is this is another target that could go into a reanimator type deck.
Yep.
While we haven't really seen one of those yet, it seems like every set you're getting one or two more pieces. So while you're talking about speculating on this card, you wouldn't want to do it. I, on the other hand, think it'd be probably a great card to speculate on, because when it comes out, it probably will be dirt cheap, like you said. But maybe 6 months to a year down the road, when there's more aspects, more cards to build an actual reanimated deck, that price would still go skyrocket.
Right. Like you start to put together the pieces. We have Force Throw to put something into the discard. We have Enterprising Lackeys to blow up things that we resourced and get them into the discord. We have these animate targets. We have Palp's Return. Like it's slowly building to the point where we could get a tipping point to like actually build a gross deck.
I like that.
Cool. All right. So now we're just going to get into the rest of the listener questions. So here's a question from Mark, who got second with Green Sabine at the UK event last weekend and has a video about his deck tech. Curve, assuming you want to play a single unit on Curve all the way up to 6 or 7 resources, what's your ideal target for many unit cards of each resource cost to include in your deck? I'm sure there's some mathematical answer, but I don't know what that is. I don't run those calculations.
As someone who's taught math for 20 years, I never use those percentages, and I always sort of laugh them off when people would talk about like, oh, my deck is 44% this or does this, and because there's other nuances that sort of make those calculations, like those things aren't in a vacuum. For instance, you might mulliganing for a 2-drop. Well, you might have to throw a hand away that has a 2-drop. There's just so many different variables.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You actually talk about like calculus and like related rates and how that would impact things.
Exactly.
That I don't use that. But I do think that, like, the longer your deck goes, the more tricky this becomes, which I think is not going always want to bring it back to Sabine, but like when you've got a condensed curve, it's really easy. Yeah. And you certainly want to be doing things. I think about sort of my what I want to do with a deck and making sure I just have enough of that consistently.
Yeah.
And then mising more of like the top end, because you don't always have it, but when you have it, it's going to be great. Like, like the old Sabine list played 3 5-drops, and the new ones played essentially 6 with Wrecker.
Yeah.
And like, you always want Fet's Fire Spray in Boba, but you're not going to like play the 4th space unit that costs 6. You're just going to, when you have it, you're going to play it.
Right.
So like,
yeah.
But that's like one of the most important cards in that deck. So you also just have to understand like what your deck is doing too. So I don't necessarily think this has like a clean answer. All these things.
But
I don't even think you want, like, I get the question. I hate to be like dodgy with it, but I don't even think you want to think in that term of like, I think what you want to do is like you want to identify like what your power plays are. So like one thing that I've been talking about in the Kira ECL deck is like you need, like, that deck is inconsistent because sometimes it's not playing enough of like Lompike or Gideon Hask, and like when the deck doesn't hit those ECL power plays, it kind of can fizzle. So like what I would be looking at is like, what are my power plays? Let's solidify that. Do I go long? Let's look there. And then the other thing is like you don't always want to be playing on curve, especially into like this. I think just any meta, but specifically this one, because like sometimes you want to be thinking in terms of like on 5 I want to play like a 3 and a 2-drop. Or in 6, I want to play a 4 and a 2-drop. Like, I want to be able to remove something and then a play to the board. So, like, I love this question because it just lets us talk. But, like,
yeah,
I would
that's why I included it. I agree.
Yeah,
and
I
like,
would not really consider, like, perfect curve.
Yeah, I think there's 2 other considerations going on, like the play multiple cards. Like, how many times does someone, like, tap out against me to just, like, drop a tapped unit? And it's like, okay, well, you just blew all your resources. I don't have to play around anything now, and I can just say like, all right, what's my best play? Or if I'm playing aggro, like what's my max damage? So having things that under curve to bluff other things or let you play other things is really great, and not tapping out. And then conversely, like if you just play 1 card a turn for the entire game, you won't use all your cards. So like there are turns of the game you want to play multiple because you want to be able to use all your resources and play all the cards in your hand. Just in simple terms of getting the most value out of what you play. And if you only play on curve and you finish a game, like there will still be cards in your hand, which I don't know. You want to try and not go hellbent as early as possible, but like to get the most value out of your hand, you should play the cards. That's why things like Metal Ceremony are good, because like there's an opportunity cost for free to even just put 1 token on something.
Yeah. I think if you do want to look at a deck that curves out well and takes all those things into consideration, I would look at the Blue Han decks, because they kind of have this almost like, they kind of take this into account because you're cheating things out. So like they do a good job at being like, okay, I have a 4-drop to cheat out to then get my, you know, my regular 4-drop. So I think if you want a model to look at, I would look at the Blue Han decks if you are trying to be a curve boy. But also they do cool things like 3/2s and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, and then there's decks like the Blu-ray. Like, what do we have? Like 4 8-drops in there, Steve?
I'm only playing 2 right now.
Oh, I have 4.
My Redemption's out.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you know, like I think what everything you guys said is correct, and in most cases you probably don't want to be playing on curve. But assuming this person does want to play on curve, I'd say whatever numbers you're thinking of, like it's easy to relate it to Magic. You could always probably hedge on the side of more copies of a card to make sure you do hit your curve, because worst case scenario, you can always just resource those.
Yep.
Like Mike said, we're playing 4. He's playing 4. When I played at Gen Con, I did have 4 8-drops in my Blu-ray list, but most of the time, Chewy's almost always getting resource.
Right.
So because of that, it's like I'm almost playing 2 8-drops and 2 11-drops.
Mm-hmm. The other thing, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I think the ability to resource cards you don't need can allow you to hedge on playing more copies of specific numbers on the curve that you otherwise wouldn't normally play in a game like Magic.
Yeah, and one of the things that I wanted to say in response to Justin, which was like you know, thinking about the consistency of like having that bomb play like a Boba Fett's Fire Spray, is like sometimes it's just better to play like a triple Dark Raid or Commission to make sure you hit that, and then like you have more cards to resource if you draw them early or in duplicates, and you don't have to worry so much about always having to resource your bomb.
And like smuggle makes that decision a little easier too. With like on 5, you can smuggle a Cassian or a Long Pike or something.
Yeah, although like we've talked about it before, but sometimes that can be a trap because like you don't want to auto resource your smuggles because sometimes they're just better on curve.
Oh yeah, I think that's a big mistake people make for sure.
Slick Chris asks, I'm looking to start competing in my area for Star Wars Unlimited showdowns and box tournaments, maybe some 1Ks. I come from a Pokemon Lorcana background besides jamming games in paper. What other things do you think could help benefit to being a better competitor? I'm not trying to be the best in the world or anything, just want people to be like, damn, that boy good. Plus, I want to destroy my 14-year-old because he's pretty damn good. So like, any tips on being better?
Mike, can you just say that line one more time?
Damn,
please?
That boy good. I've been hanging out with teenagers all week. First week of school.
Justin, you've been teaching some 14-year-olds. I bet this resonates with you a little bit. Just wanting to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think practice, you know, I come from like basketball coaching, like you want to stay in the gym. There's a certain point where like your kids probably will be better than you if they're practicing more. Like, it just depends on who's actually in the lab more, right? Like,
that's
I think I think playing, but also playing like trying to find good people. You know, people who play with their kids. I think you don't want to just play like only with your kids, because then you're just like, you know, you're almost like sort of playing like a board game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think you want to like maybe go to a tournament and like try to play, or like find your LGS and just get games. And
I think
or like even bring like better decks if you were playing with your kids. Like, let's play Kira versus Sabine and see what happens, and like how do we sideboard and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think being reflective too about those games, like having people to play with that you can talk to after, and not just jam the game and then sign off.
Yeah, so I'll tease. Oh, you go, Steve, and then I'll tease my video.
Go ahead.
Well, I have a whole video that I actually talk about practice, and I think that people are just like jamming best of one game ones like way too much, and they're just like focusing on only playing. And I think the guys hit some really important things that I talk about in my videos. Like, there's different areas to practice, and you want to be hitting each of them. There's sometimes you want to like when I first started playing the game, I'd literally sit on deck builder with a deck that I was learning, and I'd be like, okay, would I mulligan this hand? What would I resource? And like, that's a way to practice. It's just like, you know, growing up with soccer and doing cone drills or something. Like, there are different ways to flex the muscles of the game without just completely playing a game. There's playing sideboard games, going to locals and like treating it like a tournament, not in terms of like sweating on the person playing the Bo-Katan deck, but like making sure your board state is crisp and stuff like that. There's different ways to do that. And then obviously the reflection. So I talk about like technical, analytical, and like theoretical things that you can practice. And that's coming out in a couple weeks. Check that out.
Nice.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the big thing on the contrarian aspect is not so much playing a mass number of games, but playing better quality games. Like for me, there's so many times I just go through the motions of playing a game where I'm just playing almost like kill time, and I'm not necessarily thinking through every turn or every play. It's almost becomes automatic. And I'd say playing less games but better quality games and thinking things through as opposed to just going through the motions is really how you can bridge that gap.
Cool.
I love that. Yeah.
All right, 3 decks to build now, and like I think this is an interesting one because I want to do it. I want us to think about it in a way that like it fits our personalities specifically, and not necessarily like, oh, we'll obviously build the 3 best ones, but also like there are kind of 4 right now. So what are you leaving out? And like, are you leaving 2 of those out because you want to be even more off the radar? In fact, we got another question. I don't think I put it in. I didn't put it in the slideshow. We got a last minute question that like we could address. But it was like, is it better to play off the radar decks? Like, when do you play off the radar decks? So we can kind of like think about that in terms of like, what 3 decks would we build? I know I'll give you guys a chance to think since I saw this question beforehand, but like, I know for me, and I talked about this on our tournament prep pod, is like, I probably wouldn't have Sabine built. Like currently I don't. I built the red, green Han instead because like I struggle to find the right winning lines when I play Sabine, and I wanted to try like some other version of red, green aggro. But I would want a version of red, green aggro. Sabine if I felt really good with it. Maybe Han if I thought it was better for my playstyle or whatever. But I think people should just like practice getting better at Sabine. I'll probably always have yellow Boba. I will always have yellow Boba built as long as it's good in the game. But if I was building a 3rd deck, that right now I would keep my blue Ray built because it's the deck I feel most comfortable with and the deck that I feel like I can grind the best with. I feel more comfortable grinding with it than Kira.
Try the block party.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I can just tell you exactly what I actually have built. I have Sabine built. I have Yellow Boba built. I have Kira built. Well, I have the cards like separated, so if like a tournament's coming up, I'm ready to roll. And I don't have Blue Han built just because, kind of to Mike's point, like about you can't have everything, and you're looking at like what you're comfortable with. But I have CAD Blue built, and that's like my experiment. So it's sort of like you want your pillars, like the pillars you feel comfortable with. And then I would say 1 experiment to kind of explore. Maddie, you've had Luke for a while. And sometimes you get really comfortable with that experiment, and it's like it turns into a top tournament deck, like Steve with the blue Ray potentially like really being like competitive. So I think that's sort of where you want to approach it. I wouldn't want like, you don't want to have like your decks are Fennec and IG and, Hera, and you don't have an awareness of like the top decks. You want 1 experiment, I think, is kind of maybe 2, and then you want to have most of the top decks sort of comfortability with those, I would say. And you're also like, if you get comfortable with Sabine and you're trying to work on your brew, that's going to help your brew because you're going to know like how to beat it and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of perfect that you put that because like the 2 decks that I had the most comfort with would play in a tournament tomorrow are Kira, and I'll loop ECL in 30. Like that's a spread consideration for me.
Sure.
Although I'm leaning 30, so I'll loop those together. So I have those. I think that's like probably the best deck, honestly. I think Blue Han, I really like it. I think we talked about like if I'm facing a non top tier Kira, I think I can still smack them around a little bit there. And as well, I just think it's got like really powerful lines. So those are my 2. And then my experiment, funny enough, this deck came from my love of Luke and trying to find a new way to kind of attack that color palette is the block party, which is Boba, Hero Boba Green with the 30-point blue base, Rockin' Dagobah. Shout out to the Swamp Boys. And that is my experimental deck that I think can fall into this obscure line. And actually, I've played it into pretty much every top deck. Just limited play right now. I'm still building it. And it's been really impressive the way that it can grind. So that's my experiment that I'm working on.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to build 3 decks, it'd be Blue Ray, Red Ray, Yellow Ray.
No green Ray?
I'm a big fan of believer in playing what you know, and Ray's probably the only deck I really know in this current environment. So stick with what you know.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Dude, blue yellow Ray's got that. You can go force with that one.
I started thinking about yellow this morning at the gym,
Yeah,
and I was
I
like,
tried it
how
when the
come
first
that
set
hasn't been
dropped.
before?
Yeah, I tried
Like,
to
think
do
about
it.
waylaying when you're under dropping and tokens, not tokens, but experience points. Like, there could be something there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I think
get the
there's
one-
also something to like potentially even doing like some of the blue yellow bounties and the spare the target, so you get to bounce and collect the bounty and give you guys shield and or go get more removal cards.
Mando.
Yeah,
Mando, baby. That would be my fourth deck is Mando. I think that it's so fun to play, like giving your stuff like exhaust a unit as like a text on top of it, which is, yeah. We'll talk about Mando another time.
And the only other thing that we wanted to mention was the KTOD Hangout. If you're in New England and you're a Patreon subscriber, we're hosting a free draft for our subscribers. You can, check out the details on the Patreon. Please RSVP. But it's going to be a free draft on us. And if you're thinking about, should I join? I would like a free draft and you're in the New England area. We're planning on doing this for every set. So basically a set draft hangout championship in the New England
September
area.
8th.
Yep.
So
cool.
That'll be fun. Football, draft.
First week of football.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
That's going to be great. We're back, baby.
Yep. NFL ticket. We have a couple, but I'll fill you in on Monday. We're going to finish them on Monday. Okay, cool. Well, that's the pod. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. See you next time.
See you next time on 17, baby.
Yeah, and don't forget to check us out on 9.5 for our exclusive Twilight of the Republic spoiler. Bang.
Come to the block party.